that is this piece in the Washington Post a couple of days ago, but it's just now starting to get some attention. I noticed that CNN was reporting on it this morning, that the Justice Department is saying, you know, we're not sure that we really want to prosecute all the people who broke into the Capitol. Excuse me. And I'm like, what? I mean, you know, I think so I published a piece today, and I tweeted this out. You can find it on Twitter. You can find it on our Facebook page. You can find it over at medium.com. And presumably on our blog, or it'll shortly be there, that Americans are just, I think, starting to realize, I think it's really starting to sink in for a lot of Americans, exactly what happened on January 6th. That this was an actual attempt to violently overthrow the government of the United States, to assassinate Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi. They built a gallows outside. We had a carpenter call into the program a week or so ago and say, you know, I build houses for a living. I've built something like 500 houses, and I can tell you that thing was well made by professionals. And I found a close-up photo of it because it sparked my curiosity, of that gallows outside the Capitol building. And sure enough, I mean, you know, countersunk, bolts that are, you know, those giant, you know, like half-inch diameter, 6-inch long bolts, and it was made by. It wasn't made with 2x4s. It was made by 4x4s, and I mean, this is serious. This was an actual, real. This was not symbolic. This was a gallows complete with steps. They built steps up to it. It was a gallows designed to kill people, to hang people. I mean, they were marching through the halls chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and "Where's Nancy?" They smeared feces, their own poop, on the floors and walls. They damaged and vandalized at least a half a dozen priceless paintings. They trashed government offices. They stole top secret stuff. And this was entirely the effort of one political party. And that's the important point here. That's the thing that I think that, you know, we just absolutely need to pay attention to. That, you know, I get it that, you know, there's now, as far as I can tell, 2 Fox News hosts who, whenever they talk about the coup attempt on January 6th, talk about Democrat infiltrators. There were none. There's absolutely no documentation for that. These people were wearing MAGA hats. They were carrying Trump flags. They were Republicans. And now they're saying that they want mercy and compassion and understanding. The guy who was dressed like a naked Viking with the giant, you know, with the fur over his shoulders and the horns and everything, you know, he's saying, well, you know, I was just doing what Donald Trump told me to do. In fact, apparently, a number of them, that's going to be their defense as they go into court, is we were just doing what the President of the United States told us to do. I mean, there's film of these guys as they're confronting the Capitol Police at the beginning of the siege, saying, Donald Trump sent us here. Your boss sent us here. You have to let us in. He told us to come here. This is going to be their defense. See, they want us to understand that it's not their fault. We're just supposed to start understanding these folks, these Republicans. This is the same Republican Party who, for 50 years, has waged a brutal war on drugs that H.R. Haldeman, Richard Nixon's his chief domestic policy advisor, came right out and said, we did this to make it criminal to be, so that we could easily arrest black people and anti-war hippies. And they've done that. And thousands of black people and a few anti-war hippies have rotted in prison for years as a result of Nixon's war on drugs, the Republican Party's war on drugs. This is the Republican Party who waged a no mercy campaign of imprisoning refugees, fleeing violence in their home countries, tearing their children away from them, putting their children in cages for months, losing over 600 of them, saying no mercy. They now want mercy. This is the same Republican Party that says no exceptions to the death penalty. In the last 3 months, they have executed more people than in the last 56 years at the federal level, combined. This is the same no compassion Republican Party that's now asking for compassion, that for years and years and years has said, if somebody falls on hard times, we have no obligation to provide them with government-funded housing or food stamps or extended unemployment benefits. In fact, every Republican administration back to Reagan has cut back on unemployment benefits, and then a Democrat comes in and re-expands them. This is the Republican Party that has worked for 80-plus years to end Social Security, to privatize it and turn it over to the banks, and to gut Medicare and Medicaid. These are the people who spent 40 years so glorifying guns that America is the worldwide center for school shootings. And when first graders were gunned down at Sandy Hook, this is, these people who want a discussion now about whether or not they should just be let go. These are the same people who refuse to even discuss taking weapons of war off our streets. This is the same Republican Party that is now talking about, well, let's, have the rule of law, and let's be careful, and let's all have justice, and, this is the same Republican Party that cheered when Dick Cheney and George W. Bush captured people in Iraq and Afghanistan who didn't commit any crimes other than that their neighbors wanted to make $5,000, which is more than, 3 years' salary, by turning them in, and then sent them off to black sites to be tortured and executed, and they ended up in Guantanamo. And now the Washington Post says that, maybe the Justice Department can't handle all these prosecutions. And, we really need to understand. Maybe it wasn't their fault. Really?